Hey girls, what time is it?
Adventure time!
Yeah, and now with James, which can't really see him, he's under the cover there. We are also in our truck now, and we are towing the RV. What the purpose of today's trip is to be the first shakedown trip as a family in our truck with the new improved trailer and all the modifications that we have made. And so we're going to go out to an area nearby that is called the Knolls. It's on the west side of Utah Lake, and it's just some open BLM land there. And we're going to kick the tires, so to speak, and test out the trailer and all of its new functionality. Are you excited, Lucy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah!
Show me how excited.
Really? Really excited.
Are you girls excited?
Yeah! I'm so excited.
All right, let's get on the road. The distance out to the Knolls from our house is only 20.6 miles away, so it's pretty close, and we were only driving for about 36 minutes to get there. And there are some pretty views along the way, but it is mostly just driving through city until we finally get out there.
Claire is asleep.
In there too.
Did not take long. Pretty
Not
cool
in the
sunglasses lid.
We're now on the west side of Utah Lake, and that's it right there, and that's the
Then I
highway
pulled
going
the
down the
velvet
side. I have driven out here multiple times in the past, and I've always found it quite breathtakingly beautiful out here with the reflection off the water and the white snow-capped mountains. This area called the Knolls is actually the South Knolls, as there is another area called the Knolls up on I-80 northwest of this location. As you can see, one of the retrofits that I did to our trailer is I added 530 watt solar panels to the roof of the RV. And I have another video where I documented how I did that, which I'll put a card above so you can go and watch that if you haven't already. So that gives this travel trailer a total of 2,650 watts of solar panels. And yes, to those who know anything about solar, especially in the context of an RV, that is a lot of solar panels, no doubt. However, what I've done is I've basically replaced all of the components in my trailer that required propane with electric versions of those same appliances. So for instance, electric cooktop, now instead of a propane cooktop, same for the oven. The furnace still uses propane and it is still installed, but instead I've installed a heat pump mini split so that I can heat and cool the trailer with electricity. The water heater that came from the manufacturer with dual electric capabilities and propane capabilities. So basically we use a lot more electricity on this RV than your standard RV, and so we need a larger power plant in order to accommodate that. When we arrived at the Knolls, we found a location that worked for us, and then we also did some testing in the parking lot area to see what kind of steering restrictions we now have with that mini split outdoor unit on the tongue of the trailer. And it does restrict our turning radius a little bit, but not terribly much. Did I mention that this area is really beautiful, especially in the winter? It can be really hot in the summer, so we're here in the winter and that's good. And then it has this big outcropping with all these rocks on top of it that the kids just love to explore. So it is a really fun place to come and to visit. Okay, we have found a spot where we're gonna be. We're just gonna pull forward here a little bit, and then we're gonna park the trailer. Right here. Let's go see how it looks. See, the ground here is kind of light colored, and it's darker over there and much softer, so I can't drive over there. But the truck here is not going to get stuck. It's off the road, and the trailer has a nice view off over this direction to the lake and the mountains in the distance. So I think this is going to work. We're going to get out and set up the trailer. The first thing I'm going to do is get the mini split going. This is a cover that Jessica made that is made out of this material that has vinyl on the outside and has this white felt on the inside. It's kind of the same thing as this jack cover here that I got off of Amazon. I'll put the link in the description down below. So I'm going to take this cover off of the mini split, and then I'll be able to fire it up and get it warmed up inside the trailer. Coming here in the trailer, we can check on the battery here, and we are starting at 100%. First thing I need to do is turn on the inverters. Okay, the inverters are on now. And so now I can turn on the mini split. So to do that, I have this remote right here. And with this remote, I can just say on and set the temperature to 70 is fine. Now the mini split, you can see the louver here underneath just opened up. And I can feel air starting to blow out now. And if I come out here, and then you can see the fan is spinning, and I can feel cold air blowing out. The next thing I'm doing is leveling it from side to side. So I put these levelers here, and I'm going to pull forward a couple of inches, bring up the trailer on this side. Alright, I've gotten the trailer level. You can see it sunk here a bit in the soft dirt. So if I had needed to, I did bring some wood here that I could use for reinforcement. And then the next thing is here in the battery compartment is where I'm keeping my random tools and whatnot. Here's my X-chocks. So now I'm going to be putting those in here so that it stabilizes the trailer forward to backward. And it just goes in here like this between the two tires. And then I have this wrench that came with it. And then the X-chocks just widen between the tires, locking them together basically. It's really effective. Now I'll go to the other side and do it there too. Now I'm bringing up the trailer up off the truck. We're not really planning on going anywhere in the truck, but the level, it needs to come up in the front to be level anyway. The next thing I need to do is put down the stabilizer jacks, and so I open up this compartment right here, turn on the power for that, and then go ahead and put the jack down. You can see this one right here is the front one. There we go. So now coming into the trailer, the last thing to do is to slide out this dinette area, and underneath it I have these support feet that I installed. There's one on this side and one over there on the other side you probably can't see. So I'm just going to push this up, and it has a clamp up above just like that, and then I'll do the one on the other side, and then we'll be able to slide it out. And the purpose for this is simply that it's a weakness in Lance trailers that the slide out is all the way, when it's all the way in, all the weight that is in the drawers and just the slide out itself is just hanging on the inside, and it puts undue stress on the clamps that hold the slide out to the side of the trailer. And so I just put the supports in here just to ensure that that doesn't happen. What are you doing, girls?
We're watching a movie.
Oh. The kids are having fun exploring the area. And in here, Jessica is feeding James. How's it going, James? And I thought I would just point out here that we have this bottle warmer, which is pretty nifty. We put some water in it, and it's kind of like a double boiler. The steam warms the milk, and that's just plugged in here in this outlet on the side. And the outlets are always energized as long as we have the inverters turned on, and they definitely are. It just barely switched down to 97%, and you can see it's currently pulling 450 watts, which is almost entirely going to the mini split. And the mini split is blowing hot air, and according to the thermostat thermometer here, it's 60 degrees in here, but it feels warmer than that to me, and the mini split indicates 70. It always takes a little bit for these to get stabilized between the two of them. One other thing that we need to do in here, hi Lucy, is the Berkey water filter here. We keep this empty when we're traveling, or relatively empty, and so when we get somewhere we can pull this out and then raise this up, put that into the reservoir there, and then just turn on the water. And so it's pumping water from the freshwater tank of the RV and putting that through here into the Berkey filter. So it takes a minute for it to fill this up, and then it will take about a half an hour for the water to filter from this upper reservoir to the lower reservoir. And then if we want to get water out of it, we can just move this board out of the way, and I've just been putting it over here behind the stove, and then this right here is the spigot for that Berkey, and we just put cups here right underneath it, and it fills up just fine. So coming up here, you can see it's almost full. And then the other thing that I'm doing right now is charging the quadcopter batteries, and so I'm plugged into an electrical outlet right here, of course, and it's just charging fine. If you recall, in our Goblin Valley video, I was trying to charge the quadcopter off of a little inverter off of the 12-volt power port socket that's right here, and it just did not work, and the one wheel did not work either. But with these new inverter setup, that we can charge virtually anything now off these outlets. One other note too is the outside ambient temperature looks to be about 40 degrees. All right, we are cooking dinner, and so we're using this new convection microwave that I installed, and you can see it's at 425 degrees Fahrenheit. And if we look inside briefly, we can see the pizza is cooking here on this tray riser, and then the hot convection air is blowing out of the left side over here. So that's going to be done in just a couple of minutes. And it is now, the battery's down to 90%. You can see right now we're pulling 360 watts between the mini split and the microwave, which it's probably not really pulling much on the microwave right now because it can pull like up to probably around 1500, 1600 watts. We are down to almost no solar remaining. We're at 45 watts of solar and 96 watts is going to DC power. And we've also boiled some water here for hot chocolate on the induction cooktop. This is a dual burner induction cooktop right there. And so we've been using energy heavily this evening, which is to be expected. And then later during the night when the mini split is just on by itself, this energy drop will be much less. Girls, are you having fun?
Yeah.
What are you doing, Lucy?
I have a baby kitty in my nest that Lydia Claire made for me.
Oh, that was so nice of them. Are you warm and toasty?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's a baby
You're cold?
kitty.
Maybe you need to use one of these blankets, Lydia. Do you like the view out the window here? There's the view.
Dad, look at the pizza.
Oh, that cooked differently in the convection microwave. And this was only the convection on, no microwave part. And that blew up strangely, but let's let it cool down and maybe it'll be back to normal. The view out the dinette windows here is actually pretty cool too. You can see the lake on all of these three sides. And here's James. Hey James, are you having fun? No? Oh, here's the next pizza. Let's see how this one turns out. Girls, how's your dinner? Yeah? What do you have? Pizza and salad?
Yeah.
Looks good, Lyd.
And this one's the face. This one is the face.
So we have the second pizza cooking now, and looking at the power consumption, you can see it's actually much higher now than it was a moment before when I showed you. So it's pulling 1800, almost 1900 watts between the different things that are running, but most of that is going to the microwave, I'm sure. And you can also hear the cooling of the main inverter. Most of those watts are being pulled from this inverter right here, and you can hear the cooling fan going. But it's kind of a background noise and we don't really notice it most of the time. What's so funny, girls?
I warned you guys about having fun.
Are you girls having fun on this camping trip? Great. Oh, and checking out the pizza, you can see that it has lowered back to normal. And looking at the crust, it didn't really make a very crispy crust, even though we had it on the baking tray.
Well, but
So-
it has this on the baking tray.
Oh, yeah, I had this cardboard. So on the next one, we're going to try slipping it directly onto the tray that it's on, which is a grate, a grill there. It's looking good, though. Hey, Clara, what's James doing?
Giving her flowers.
Is he asleep?
Yeah, and he's giving her flowers. He keeps going like this.
Here's the pizza coming out of the oven.
Yeah, and he did.
It didn't blow up like the other one did.
Does it look done?
Let's see how the bottom side, maybe just set it on the counter. So I've inspected the crust underneath the pizza, and it definitely is not crispy. It's cooked, but it's not crunchy. So we're going to keep experimenting with this oven and see if we can get that to work better with pizza, or maybe not, I don't know. The issue is that in the oven here, since it is a microwave, it just has this glass cook plate on the bottom. So there's no heat that comes up from the bottom. It only is coming from the convection on the side, or it also has heating elements on the top, but the pizza needs it on the bottom. And now that we are done cooking dinner, the battery is down to 83%. At this point, this 159 watts is primarily just the mini split, Although there's a cooling fan on the microwave as it cools down. It's a little bit warm, especially in this back corner here, so it's cooling down. And then the mini split is still on, but just kind of maintaining the temperature in here. It's currently 66 degrees, but I think it's a little bit warmer than that. And then I'm still charging my batteries here, and that's pulling some power too. We're now going to test the microwave by making some cookies here. These are some pre-made cookies. And we'll see how well the microwave convection oven cooks these. So looking outside, you can see it's quite dark, and yet what's interesting to me is that the trailer shows 10 watts still, and I don't know how that is. If we come in here though and look at the menu, we can actually tell that the big MPPT charge controller is bringing in 3 watts, and the small one's bringing in 9 watts. And I don't know, that's just one panel by itself. I don't know what's going on there. That's interesting to me. In any case, right now we're pulling 3,000 watts, 1,700 on the first inverter and 1,300 on the second inverter, and the battery is down to 80%. If we look down here, the number 1 inverter is powering this microwave, and the number 2 inverter is powering the cooktop, and right now I'm boiling some water for some hot chocolate. It's almost completely dark outside. That's a little mountain knoll that we'll, I'm sure, go explore tomorrow. And there's the lake over this way. This is how loud the outdoor mini split is when it's just maintaining the 70 degrees we have it set to right now. You can maybe hear the air blowing over the mic here. But coming back around this side where it's not having air blow on it, it's virtually silent at this point. All right, so learning curve. We had the cookies on the highest tray, and you can see the heating element on top was kind of baking them uneven. So you can see on the outside of the cookie it's lighter, and on the inside of the cookie it's darker, so it's kind of funny. But otherwise it worked for sure. Now that the cookies are done, we're not boiling water anymore either. We're down to 78% on the battery, and right now we're only pulling 375 watts of AC power up here, but down here on the battery you can see it has 442 watts being pulled out of it right now, which is actually not very much, and so we'll see how it keeps going over the night. I turned off the quadcopter battery charger, and you can see now we're down to 93 watts of AC, and so it was pulling like 300 watts or thereabouts. Hey girls, what are we doing?
Watching the show.
Yeah, that's exciting. We have the laptop hooked up to the TV with the HDMI cable, and the sound goes over it and everything works perfect. Just keep it down here. And then also, if we need to, we can easily plug the laptop into this outlet right here to keep it charged up. The video is done, and the girls are all tucked into bed. We have little Clara down here on the bottom. And then here on the middle bunk, we have Lydia. Then here on the top bunk we have Lucy. And just for fun, up here above Lucy, I actually have a thermometer tucked in here under this cover, and it measures the temperature of the inside and outside. Where the device is, above the cover, it's 53 degrees, and below the cover, it's 67 degrees. And that 67 degrees is this temperature probe right there. And as a high, it has been as high as what it is now, and as a low, it has been as low as 42, and I started this before we left home. And I'm actually going to leave this up there, and we're going to continue to monitor the temperature, just kind of out of curiosity to see what it is, the difference between above this cover versus right here beneath it. Okay, good night, girls. It is now 11 o'clock at night. We're going to bed. You can see here the mini split is set to 65 degrees, and the thermometer here is indicating 65 degrees as well. So we're going to leave it at 65 for the rest of the night. It's been 70 all evening, and currently the battery's at 56%. So we'll see where it is when we wake up in the morning. That night was fairly uneventful, which is good, other than, of course, having to wake up to feed James during the middle of the night, and the bottle warmer came in really useful for that. The next morning was a bit on the overcast side, so the sunrise was kind of subdued, but there were some flashes of brilliant color, which was beautiful to watch. We had a leisurely morning, waking up and eating breakfast and looking at the view before we then got dressed to go out for exploring the area. It is now 8 hours later and the battery has gone down 40%. It's now 7:30 in the morning and Lydia is the first one awake. Hey, say hi.
Hi.
Good morning. What are you seeing out the window, Lydia? Do you remember when we camped out here in the Tesla?
Uh-huh.
That was just a year ago, huh?
Uh-huh.
Was this as fun?
Mm-hmm.
I'll put a link in the card above to that video. This is the sunrise over here happening, just barely beginning. And you'll notice that the moisture buildup is not too bad. I think the mini split does a pretty good job taking out the moisture, but there's a little bit. The blinds were down all night, and I just barely opened the blinds. Hey Lucy, how did you sleep? How did you sleep, Clara? Yeah? We had the temperature of the RV set to 65 degrees all night, and it is now, let's see, 8.5 hours after we went to bed, and it was 59% at that time, the battery. And now it has discharged down to 16%. So for a normal night's sleep, it takes about 40 to 45% of the battery in this case. And another factor to consider, of course, is how cold it is outside. Over here on this window, we have one of those window thermometers. It's showing about 35 degrees. So with it being 35 degrees outside, it consumes about 40 to 45% of the battery at 65 degrees inside. Another thing is this interior door in our trailer. There's the bathroom door right here, and this door can be opened like that, and there's a magnet that holds it right here so that it can partition off the back of the trailer from the front. And I leave this open during the night so that the warmer air can get back here to the girls' bunk beds. We did a cold weather test back on January 2nd, and it got down to 6 degrees Fahrenheit outside. And in that case, we went out to the trailer and just slept in it. And so really we were just primarily using the HVAC system, the mini split. And we started at, it was 6 p.m. when we went out, and it was 8 a.m. when we left the trailer. And in that time frame we used 90% of the battery. So it can take up a lot of energy just heating the trailer all night, even with an efficient mini split. Our plan for breakfast this morning is to make some crepes. So we're going to be using the induction cooktop. And so in this case we will see how much of the battery that takes to cook the crepes, and if need be we'll bust out the generator, but maybe we won't have to, we'll see. To turn on the cooktop, we push the power button right here, and then we push heat or temperature. In this case I'll just do heat, and then we'll start with level 5, but it can go up to 10. And now it's turned on. And if we look at the power screen, we can see the energy consumption on the L2 here is where the induction cooktop is pulling its energy from, and it's pulling about 750 watts for the cooktop. It's now 7:50 a.m. and you can see the solar is just beginning to produce a tiny bit of energy. Girls, how well did you sleep last night? Were you warm enough?
Yeah! I was too hot again.
Oh, okay. We're done cooking the crepes, and we are now at 10% on the battery. Are you girls ready to eat breakfast?
Yeah!
Alright, let's eat. This is what I call crepe lasagna. You got layered crepes with, in this case, bananas, blueberries, and strawberries mixed with yogurt and whipped cream. And then we cut it up in a grid and eat the bite-sized chunks.
Yummy!
Yeah. These girls are still working on the first one that I made.
We made a Zoe. I want another one.
Alright. Lucy, how cold was it back here last night?
Hot.
You were hot? Alright, let's check this thermometer up here above you in the skylight. So this unit was measuring the temperature above the skylight, and then this outer piece of metal on the end of this wire was measuring the temperature down below. And so we have 51 degrees that it is up there right now, and 66 or 65 degrees below now. But if we hit this maximum button right here, 65 above and 70 below, which is surprisingly warm. Lucy maybe put her fingers on it. And then, oh, you did? Okay. And then for minimum, it's been 42 above and 48, almost 49 below. So, and that's all in Fahrenheit. When I say below, I don't mean below Fahrenheit, but that this probe was below this cover up here. So anyway, that gives you an idea of the temperature gradient that this cover provides, just a little bit of insulation. The next morning, you can see there was quite a bit of buildup of frost on the solar panels, and that wasn't really a problem because they weren't being used at night. And then as the sun was rising, it was struggling to melt off the frost because it was kind of overcast, but it did succeed eventually. You can see a dark spot there in the center, and that is just above the skylight, so there's extra heat coming up there and melting the frost. You can see out on the lake that it was cold enough that there is ice on the lake, but there are bands of melted ice that are along the shore. And then here is a really cool view of just the mountain there on the side of where the trailer is, with the lake off in the distance. I just finished filming that drone shot that you just saw, and the solar input is 168 watts, it looks like, about. And so just with the overcast sky, we're really not getting that much yet. And the battery's down to 6%, and we're still withdrawing about 700 watts from it at the moment. Are you ready to go on a hike?
Yes! Up the mountain!
Hey girls, where do you want to go on a hike?
Up the mountain!
Alright, let's do it.
Let's take it up the mountain! You go, Daddy!
You're not going to be able to run all the way. Predictably, it didn't take long for them to run out of energy and stop running, but they still had enough energy. They were able to power up to the top of this little mountain here. The views up here are spectacular, and this is especially one reason why I love camping, because you are in locations first thing in the morning when often the views are more epic with maybe mist out across the water or just the sunrise in general. And the girls had a lot of fun exploring up here. Unfortunately, there's some junk left behind from other people that have been here prior, and there's a burn pile up here, so there's random burnt things. In any case, we had lots of fun exploring, and unfortunately Jessica wasn't able to make it because, well, James. And so she held down the fort back at the trailer while we explored for a while here at the top of the mountain. The view up here is really awesome, and it's not very high, so it doesn't take a lot of work to get up here, which is good. And I love how we can see out across the lake right now, which is frozen, and then just the snow-capped mountains across the other side of the lake. Really is a stupendous view. We're all cold, so we're gonna go warm up in the trailer, and then we'll go explore the lake. Back here at the trailer, it is now 9:40 a.m. and the battery went down 1% while the girls and I were up on top of the mountain. The solar is now at 289, but because it's so overcast, it's not getting better than that. It should be by now starting to charge the battery in a sunny day, but it isn't right now. What did you think of that hike on top of the mountain? Cold? Cold? Yeah, and was it fun?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was worth the cold, right?
But also very, very freezing.
It's a good thing you're sitting right below the mini split, huh?
Feel my toes.
All right.
Feel them. Feel them.
Yeah, those are cold. Girls, where are we going now? We're gonna go explore the lake? All right. Well, the lake is frozen over still, but the question is how thick is this ice? It is. It's mostly frozen. Yeah, it's not thick there. Not thick enough to walk on. The mud, though, is frozen enough to not sink in or even get muddy. Oh, yep. That ice is not very thick.
Oh, Lydia! Do that again. Watch that. And do it again.
Whoa. Lydia has the good boots for this. They're water boots. She could just step in there, huh? This is kind of cool. Watch the... These are frost crystals that have been built up on top of ice. It's really cool, huh, girls? They're really cool ice crystals, huh? So we are just getting back to the trailer, and we've had the mini split set to 65 degrees all morning. We didn't change it from the night. Feels quite warm in here now. It shows 66 degrees on that thermostat there. The girls are all drinking hot chocolate. So Jessica boiled some water on the cooktop before we got here. Now, she mentioned that the battery percentage got down to 2% while we were away, but now the solar is charging the battery, so it's back up to 3%. And the mini split is still pulling about, it's 450, 500 watts as normal. But the solar is now 900 watts, which is way better because the sun has come out a little bit. And you can see the light streaming here into the dinette. So that's obviously helping our solar array dramatically. Girls, how do you like your hot chocolate?
I love it.
What did you think of the lake?
I loved it, and I went ice skating.
You did?
And I skated a little.
Yeah, just a little bit. You did a lot of chomping and crunching of that ice, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking it open.
Because my boots were really
Did you fall down?
I fell down 4
Lucy
times.
fell a lot because you
4
were trying to slide, huh?
Uh-huh. Well, I fell down only 4 times. I only fell down once.
Okay, great.
I only fell down 4 times.
I fell down 0 times.
Because you were on the ice.
I fell down 0 times too.
Because you weren't even there.
How's James doing? Where is he?
He's taking a nap on Lydia's bed.
Oh. There's James. In summary, regarding the electricity and the batteries and the inverters and all of that, we arrived at 100% and now we are at 3%, dipped briefly down to 2%. So we used virtually the entirety of our 9.6 kilowatt hour battery, which is 8 100 amp hour 12 volt Battleborn batteries. So obviously it takes a lot of energy when everything is using electricity. The stovetop, the microwave oven, we were using the convection part of that oven last night for, how long was that? Probably, Jessica, half an hour or so? Cooking the pizzas.
Oh, yeah.
We've cooked things on the stovetop, doing the crepes and boiling water for drinks, etc. The vast majority of the consumption goes to the mini split though. Just overnight it used 40%. Just while we were sleeping for like 8 hours, right? But we turned it on when we first arrived here, and we'll be leaving here fairly soon. And the mini split has been on the entire time. Yesterday evening, it was at 70 degrees until we went to bed at 11 p.m. And then I moved it to 65 degrees, and it has remained at 65 degrees the entire morning. So in any case, in the wintertime, is our battery bank sufficient? Yes, but just barely. And we would, if it got colder outside overnight, then we'd have to lower the internal temperature of the RV to compensate for how cold it is outside, so that the temperature differential isn't as great. We do have a generator, and I could have connected it and charged up the batteries somewhat if I had needed to, but I wanted to see if we wouldn't need to, and we didn't, but just barely. But this is kind of a worst case scenario, meaning it's really cold. The mini split uses more electricity when it's cold outside and versus air conditioning in the summer, and then also the days are really short this time of year. On the winter solstice, I did a test, and on a perfectly sunny day on the winter solstice, which is December 21st, the battery bank got charged by the solar panels 51% in a 24-hour period of time. So, right now, if we were to continue camping in the winter, by the time tonight rolls around, we wouldn't have enough energy to get us through the night using the mini split. So we'd have to break out the generator and supplement power, or we'd switch over to the propane furnace that still is functional here in the RV, depending on which one we choose to use. So in any case, the winter isn't quite sufficient to have everything running on electricity, but we could have been a little bit more careful in our use of electricity. For instance, we could have just warmed up something in the microwave, which only takes a couple of minutes versus a pizza that takes much longer. I'm excited to see how it performs in the summertime when the days are much longer. The energy yield from the panels will be far higher, and I'm pretty confident we'll be able to use electricity with reckless abandon, and we'll have just more than enough, which is my goal, especially once we have the Cybertruck pulling the trailer. All the excess energy will be going to the Cybertruck, and so we won't waste any energy production. So we're going to pack up now, and we're going to head home. And if you look right here on the screen, the battery has gone up even to 4%. So it's charging at 633 watts right now, and by the time we get home, I'm sure it'll be up in the teens. And that's what's cool about this, is that it charges while we're driving too, versus a ground mount or ground deployment panel situation. So this is the foot here is underneath, so I just reach down and pull this down, and then I just kind of lift up on the outside a little bit. There we go, and that foot comes down, and now it's going to support. I'm going to do the other one on the other side, and this will support this whole slide out when we're driving down the road and it's bouncing. The solar is now producing 1438 watts, and the battery is charging at 1245 watts. So if we needed to turn on our hot water heater right now, we certainly could. We've had it off the whole time we've been here, and right now it's 10:43 a.m. just to give you an idea of the time of day. All right, we're about to drive away, and the solar is producing at 1345 watts, and we're up to 7%. And we'll see how much we charge going home. In my estimation, everything about this trip went perfectly, and I'm very happy with everything that we've done to the trailer. All of the appliances worked well, although there's still a little bit of a learning curve with using an induction cooktop with cooking the crepes, for instance, and we didn't use the normal pans that I'm used to, and there was a little bit more sticking, and et cetera, et cetera. So we're still working out those differences, but overall, we had enough energy to do everything that we wanted to do, and just barely. But this happened in the middle of January of 2022, and that's near the winter solstice, which, like I said, it was December 21st in 2021. And so you're not going to have much less yield, other than, I guess, a completely snowy day, for instance. But the battery it is large enough that if you were to modify your consumption sufficient, you would be able to live within the constraints of the solar array and that battery bank, with potential need for supplemental energy through either propane for the furnace or maybe a generator for the electricity. We stopped at a nearby Maverick gas station when they have this free dump station, which is nice. So we're dumping right there, and they also have water available for the black tank flush right there. Let's go inside while that's dumping and see where the solar is at. Looks like we're at 12% on the battery, and we're charging at 1130 watts. Something I forgot to do is turn off the AC, the inverters, since we don't need those on right now. So I'll just go ahead and do that now. They're off. So now this that load of 46 watts is just some standby things in the RV, maybe the mini split, the stove, the oven, whatever. So now that much more power is going to charge the batteries. We are back home. So we're at 16% and charging at just over 800 watts. It is now 3:42 p.m., which is the same time that we arrived at the Knolls yesterday. So it's been a full 24 hours since we started using the battery, and you can see that we're now at 35%. And so basically the takeaway here is that it was only able to charge up to 35% today after our usage this morning, and we got it down to 2%, and then it was charging throughout the day, and it is still charging right now. So it may still get up to 36%, but it probably won't get higher than that. I think the main takeaway here is that in the winter, the days are short, right? And the sun is really low in the sky. So the solar yield, the amount of energy you can get off of the panels is limited. As we saw on this trip today, this time of year, right now we're in mid-January 2022, the solar got up to about 1400 watts, and it's a 2600 watt array, so we're slightly less than 50% at this point. During the winter solstice period, the highest I was seeing was 1200 watts and some change, just to give you an idea of what that is. And these are flat mounted panels. If they were angled towards the south for us here in the northern hemisphere, then we would have had much higher yield, but you still can't help the fact that the days are short, right? So tomorrow the day will proceed without us using the trailer, and it will probably get nearly fully charged just tomorrow. However, the reality is, if we were to stay in this trailer continuously for days and days and days, and it was the winter time, using the mini split continuously just isn't doable with the amount of energy that we can get from the sun. And our battery stores enough to be able to get through the night, but just the day doesn't produce enough to be able to recharge that battery. The next experiment that I'm going to try is actually just turning off the mini split completely at night when we go to bed. If we pile on the blankets, then we should be warm enough, and there will be residual heat, and at least we're blocked. The wind is blocked, and we'll get through the night. And then the next morning, we'll have not, used very much energy throughout the night. As we saw last night, we lost 40% of the battery just over that 8-hour period of time from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So that's a huge chunk, and that should make a big difference. If it's cold enough outside, potentially things will freeze, like the pipes and whatnot inside. The tanks outside, the way the trailer is right now, are unprotected from freezing. The propane furnace that came with the trailer is what should do that, but we're not using it. And we would if we had to, of course. My thoughts are maybe next year I'll put a heating pad on all 3 tanks, but haven't got to that point yet. So, in the summertime, we will have no problem. I'm sure we'll have plenty of energy. But in the wintertime, there are some limitations here where we may have to kick in using some propane for either the furnace or the water heater. And then also we have a generator that we can use either propane or gasoline to charge the batteries and give us the electricity that we need for other things on the trailer. So I hope this has been informative for you to see how this system, this trailer, and all the systems that I have in it are performing and interacting together. We will, of course, be continuing to use this ourselves going forward, and I'll be able to give further insights on that. We are planning on starting to travel in a couple of weeks, and we'll be going down to Phoenix, Arizona, probably just because it's warmer down there, and why not, right? And we'll be testing it on the way down there, and we'll be making additional videos about that trip. So if you're interested in continuing to see Tesla videos about our road trips in the Tesla, as well as trips in our RV, then feel free to subscribe. And if you click the all on the notifications, then you'll get notified for sure when I upload a new video. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.
It is now the end of the day, and it did get to 36%.